What we're going to do tonight is discuss a little bit, not the dinim that we did the other night, but what happened on Shiva B'Tammuz, and also to learn the halacha and the Rambam about Beis B'chira, because the Rebbe said that based on the Gemara it says, if you learn the laws of Karbanis, it's like you brought a carbon. So if you learn the laws of the building the Beis Hamikdash, so it's like considered as if you built it. So we'll learn a little bit about the 5 things that happened on Shiva B'Tammuz. The first thing that happened on Shiva B'Tammuz was Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai after receiving the first set of luchos, and he broke the luchos. Why did he break the luchos? Because he saw the Jews were worshiping the golden calf, and the pshat, the simple meaning is, he made a kal v'chomer. If a person kol ara leyechoba, if he did one aveda, he can't be part of Yiddishkeit. If he mamish is worshipped idols, for sure he can't be part of it. That's the simple meaning. Then there's another machlekes. Moshe Rabbeinu, one opinion says in the Medrash that he actually, the Gemara also said, he actually threw it down. He actually vayishabenim, he actually actively broke them. Another opinion says that he didn't break the luchos. What happened was, the luchos were very heavy. There was some Empyrean, it was very heavy stone. But the letters that were engraved in the first luchos carried the luchos, so to speak. So then when the Moshe Rabbeinu saw the Jews saw the luchos, made the egel, the letters flew out. And he remained with the big stone. So basically, according to that medrash, Hashem broke the luchos, not Moshe Rabbeinu. But in Pshat, Moshe Rabbeinu actually broke the luchos because he saw the Jews were worshiping the egel. The point what we see over here is a very interesting thing. The Rebbe pointed this out many times, that Rashi quotes in the Medrash Shemashul, there was a king who married off his son, and a little bit later the son committed adultery. So the father said, you committed adultery, I gotta punish you. So a good friend of the king went and ripped up the marriage contract, as if to say he was never married, he never committed adultery. So the king eventually said to the friend, thank you for doing it. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from Har Sinai, the Jews are worshiping the golden calf. So as the understanding of it is, one of the two gotta go. Either Jews get destroyed or Torah gets destroyed. One of the two, because you can't have Jews worshiping egel getting the Torah that speaks about not worshiping golden idols. So Moshe Rabbeinu understood that Torah is not as great as the Jews. The Jews are greater than Torah. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu decided, he didn't know he was going to get a second set of luchos. He didn't know that. Hashem told him after Psalacha, get a second set of luchos. So that's what happened. Actually, the first thing that happened was Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos. There was something, by the way, later that also happened. One second. Yeah, something happened earlier in history on the 17th of Tammuz, when Noach sent out the dove from the Teva, and the dove couldn't find a resting place, and he came back. That was in Shiva B'Tammuz. That was also on the 17th day of Tammuz. So that's a mashal, the dove, the Jews are likened to the yoina, the Jews are likened to the dove in many aspects. So just like then the yoina couldn't find its place, so Shiva B'Tammuz, the Jews went into Golus, they also couldn't find their proper resting place, so to speak. That was the first thing that happened on Shiva B'Tammuz. Second thing that happened Shiva B'Tammuz was that the daily offerings in the first Bais Hamikdash was suspended. And we have to go a little bit into the history of what happened. The Gemara says they always had in the reserves enough for 4 days of karbanis. They had to bring the keves, the sheep in the morning and the sheep in the afternoon. So they always kept on stock 4 days worth. Now in the first Bais Hamikdash, the way the pasuk says in Yirmiyahu, chapter Nun Beis, it says that the Goyim went through the wall on the 9th of Tammuz, not the 17th of Tammuz. So it says it was actually on the 9th of Tammuz. that they broke the wall. And then again, they destroyed the Beis Mikdash also on Tisha B'Av. But that's what the pasuk says in Yirmiyahu. The Yerushalmi says, interesting Yerushalmi, the Yerushalmi says no. They also broke through the wall in the first Beis Mikdash, also Shivasa B'Tammuz. Why did they write the 9th of Tammuz if it happened the 17th of Tammuz? It's 8 days later. So the Yerushalmi says there was such a balagan, such a mishmash, such a mix-up. The people didn't know, so they thought it was on the 9th day. And Hashem said to the Navi, write the 9th like they thought. Let it be the way they thought it. But according to Yerushalmi, they actually broke the wall, Shivasa B'Tammuz, both times. Now, if they broke through the wall the 9th of Tammuz, so how did they get Karbanis? So 4 days of Karbanis they had, because that was in stock. So now on the 13th of Tammuz, they ran out of Karbanis for the daily morning and afternoon carbon. So what did they do? So the Gemara says, the Jews would lower down a sack of gold and a sack of silver, and the Goyim would put in 2 sheeps for the day they would have for the day. And this went on for a few days. Then on Shivasa B'Tammuz, somebody said to them, as long as the Jews are bringing Karbanis, you're never going to win over the Jews. So the Gemara says, there's one opinion they sent up goats, but the real official thing is they sent pigs. So next time they brought down the gold and the silver, they put up 2 pigs instead of 2 sheep. The Goyim actually set up, and the Gemara says when the pig came halfway up the wall, it put his nails into the wall, and the place he was thrown, and the place shook. So on Shivasa B'Tammuz, they couldn't bring the carbon tumid anymore. Because they did, after a few days, the Goyim were sending it up, then the Goyim sent up a pig, and that stopped the whole thing. So even in the first Beis Mikdash, on Shivasa B'Tammuz, they weren't able actually to bring the carbon tumid anymore. That was the second thing that happened. The third thing that happened, like we said, on the second Beis Mikdash, the walls of Yerushalayim were broken through. So it says in Halacha, even if you go like the pasuk, that the first Beis Mikdash was on the 9th of Tammuz, and the second Beis Mikdash was on the 17th, why do we celebrate the 17th and not the 9th? Celebrate them. Why do we fast? So it says it was too much to make Jews fast both days, and because the second Beis Mikdash was more closer to us, so therefore we did it we fasted on the 17th. And next thing what happened was Apostumus, which is a very big Rasha. He burnt a Sefer Torah, where different opinions where on the roads he burnt it. But he actually took a Sefer Torah and burnt it. And the same, the last thing that happened on Shivasa B'Tammuz, the same Apostumus also put an idol in the Beis HaMikdash on Shivasa B'Tammuz. So these are the 5 things that happened on Shivasa B'Tammuz, and therefore we have the fast day of Shivasa B'Tammuz. But this all led up to the ultimate destruction of what happened on Tisha B'Av when the first and second Beis HaMikdash were destroyed. In fact, there's another interesting thing in the Gemara, and then we'll get to a few halachos in Rambam. The Beis HaMikdash was burnt Tisha B'Av in the afternoon. They lit the Beis HaMikdash on fire Tisha B'Av in the afternoon, and the main burning was on the 10th day of Av. So the Gemara asks, why do we fast Tisha B'Av if the major fire was on the 10th of Av? So the Gemara answers, because that's when it began. The beginning of the burning of burning down the Beis HaMikdash was the worst. But Rabbi Yochanan in the Gemara says, it would be up to me, I would make him fast on the 10th day of also, because that was when the main fire burned. Okay, let's learn a little bit, a few halachos in Hilchos Beis HaBechira. Okay, the Rambam says like this: Mitzvah say one of the 613 positive mitzvahs is Laseis Bais Hashem. There's a mitzvah of Asisa Vasali Migdosh, right? You have to build a Mishkan. Mochan should be designated Lias Makivim by Karbanis. So the Rambam holds that the primary purpose of building the Beis HaMikdash was to have a place for korbanos. The Ramban argues on the Rambam. The Ramban holds the purpose of Beis HaMikdash just to have a Beis HaMikdash. Not necessarily the purpose was only for korbanos. And the Jews had an obligation to go up to the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year. We know Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Shenamar, how do we know it's a mitzvah in the Torah to build the Beis HaMikdash? Because the pasuk says, "Va'asuli Mikdash." In Parshas Truma, the Torah says, "Make for me a Mikdash, a Mishkan." V'kran Nisparish v'Torah Mishkan Shasa Moshe Rabbeinu, and it already explains in Chumash the Mishkan that they had in the Midbar, the temporary Mishkan. V'Hayal Fisha is only temporarily, because it says in the pasuk, "Ki le'basim adata," you didn't come yet to the ultimate resting place, which was in the Beis HaMikdash.
What did they do with all the
Some of the things were used in the Beis HaMikdash, so a lot of the parts of the Mishkan were buried underground. And therefore the Gemara says that the Mishkan that Moshe Rabbeinu made was never destroyed. Because anything Moshe Rabbeinu made was nitzchi, never was destroyed. So that got buried, that the things they didn't use, like the boards and all that, they got buried. Nobody knows where. Okay, then it says like this. Once the Jews entered from the Midbar, they came into Eretz Yisrael. It took them 7 years to conquer, 7 years to divide. So where was the Mishkan in those 14 years? Hamida Mishkan begilgal abres rishon shekov shecholku. They put the Mishkan in the city of Gilgal for the 14 years that they conquered and divided. Umisham bo l'Shilai, from there they came to Mishkan Shilai. Ubol sham Bais Shel Avonim, they built a house in Shilai of stones. Uparsha Yerias Mishkan Olav, they took the curtains of the Mishkan and put it over this stone building. V'lahaisa sham tikra, there was no roof over the Mishkan. V'shin samach tesh shana amid Mishkan Shilai, and the Mishkan stood 369 years. It was a long time that Mishkan Shilai stood. Shemeis Eli, when Eli the Kohen Gadol died, that became destroyed. They came to Neiv, and they built there a Mikdash. When Shmuel died, Neiv became destroyed. They came to Givain, and they built a Mikdash. And from Givain, they came to the Bais Din, to the Bais HaMikdash. Now the Rambam says, "We made Neiv and Givain." How much was Neiv and Givain together? 57 years. So in other words, from the time the Jews came into the Eretz Yisrael until they built the Beis HaMikdash was 369 years that the Mishkan stood, and 57 years plus for Neiv and Giving. So from the time the Jews entered Eretz Yisrael, if anybody wants to do the math, 369 plus 57, that's how long the Jews were in Eretz Yisrael without actually a Beis HaMikdash. But they had the Mishkan. Machashin is Ramez and Mechem Eba Mayin Kim Shulag Al Teira B'Chanan Rakashim